Hey there, long time no see, and after a couple of months actually, I am reporting back to you in my newest video, which we will make sort of a studio and live updates kind of video. But of course, there will be also watercolor painting, and you can join me for the watercolor painting session as well. And for those that are new here, hi, my name is Jane. I'm a watercolor artist and a teacher. And this is my studio that is currently serving only me. There are no students, there are just very abandoned chairs and brushes and these jars for water that are empty and have not been used since October of last year. This is how I spend my days in January, being here, trying to work on stuff, and I finally got to make a video for you. A little something about the painting that you will see in this watercolor painting session. I started it and finished it within like 2 or 3 days in June. So it's a summer painting. It took me about 6 hours to complete. And while I was painting it, I was also recording a voiceover in which I, in detail, explained the whole technique and different aspects of it, different materials used. And you can find all that split into 2 parts in about 2-hour-long videos on my Patreon. And my Patreon is currently not hyperactive, I would say. It's just $1 per month. For every member of my Patreon, and you can find this kind of bonus videos along with other content that I don't post anywhere else in my Patreon. So last week I finally ended the hibernation of my Patreon and posted these 2 videos alongside some serious personal updates. Some of them I'm gonna share in this video too. But the patrons really do deserve a medal for being very patient with me these couple of months. So they have their own video for my share of personal updates in there. About the painting itself, I called it Paper Doll, and the inspiration for it was another painting of mine that I did a year ago, which was called The Umbrella. Sadly, I didn't record the process of that one, and I was very sorry later that I didn't, because I found it very interesting and I found the technique that I used quite inspiring, and I wanted to do it again and want to try different applications of this technique. So this time I recorded the process and I used a very similar, almost the same technique, even though the painting didn't turn out as well as the umbrella. But I then analyzed why that happened, and I think I found the culprit. I'm actually very excited about this painting, and it was one of very few personal works that I managed to complete during 2020. And I'm the kind of watercolor painter that never gets to paint what they want and just sit down and explore, and finally after all these years find my style and my voice and just paint from what's inside me, really. Because I always have other work to do, and I always have family to feed and bills to pay, and I always take paid jobs and spend way too much energy doing things for clients and also teaching, which I really love and I can't live without, because there is something in my blood that is fulfilled by teaching others and being surrounded by like-minded people during workshops, people that try to find their inspiration, and if I can help them on their journey, that also helps to fuel my creative energy. So I think the main problem why I didn't find any time in 2020 for actual personal work was, besides pandemic and the struggles that it brought, it's also me just failing to find a proper balance between those activities. And I am sure that I want to do multiple activities, and I completely don't see what's good for me, what amount of which activity I need to keep, and when to say no to things that are piling up to the point when I can't keep up. I really thought this video will be me apologizing to you for not uploading a new video for 6 months, which is incredible because I was so excited about YouTube back in June, and during the first wave of pandemic in my country during spring, I was just working my butt off to have a video on YouTube for every week, and that made me really happy. I like to watch you respond to my YouTube videos, and I really thought that I got the hang of editing finally. And some of my older videos even got picked up by the algorithm, and much more of you got to see them, and it just feels like a wonderful thing that even a work that has been done a year ago or 2 years ago is still relevant and useful for people here on YouTube. So my inactivity on YouTube is really not coming from a place when I don't like the platform or don't like the work, don't enjoy making YouTube videos. It mostly has everything to do with the fact that my YouTube channel is my hobby and is my guilty pleasure, I would even say, because it's not something that I make money off of, and therefore when in a struggleful situation I really have to prioritize everything that pays the bills. And this sounds really harsh and blunt, but it's just the reality, and that's how it goes. So I always get to do a YouTube video when I have time for it and I have a cleared schedule and I have all of my other work done. So I need to discipline myself like my mother used to discipline me when I was a child, like you do your homework first and then you can play. So with my YouTube channel it works exactly like that. So I'm not gonna apologize because I couldn't do anything about it. The situation was as it was, and I'm just glad that I do have time today. Which brings me to what kind of YouTuber am I gonna be? If you are subscribed to my channel, this is perhaps the talk that we should have, because I suppose you'd want to know what to expect, if to stay or leave, if I'm abandoning my channel now. But no, I do not want to abandon my channel. I have this channel since 2012. So I've had it for 8 years and I've been on and off, but I always returned when I had time, when the time was right. And I do not want my YouTube channel to become my job. I do not want to accept things that would make me force any kind of content on you just to sustain me. So I want to keep it as my hobby, and that should be a good thing. So if you do finally get a video from me even after a longer pause, then you know that I wanted to make that video, and that's the only reason why I made it. It's not because it's sponsored, it's not because I'm making money off of it, and this is just a place that I don't want to mess up with anything worse than ads, which is already too bad. A couple of you actually messaged me while I was having my pause and told me that you will be waiting for more content and that you miss my content, which was so sweet, so encouraging, made me feel really guilty for not uploading more often. And I just want to thank you for your messages. Anyway, let's pick up where we left off. Back in spring, there was first wave of pandemic and my studio was forcibly closed for 10 weeks, which was back then a huge panic attack for me. And I did the whole studio cleanup that you saw on my channel, a couple of watercolor painting sessions when I talked about how I'm dealing with the close-up. Since my workshops are my number one sort of income, that was a huge surprise and also a set down that cost me basically my whole summer, because during summer I usually have a studio closed because it's very hot. People are also on vacation. It's not very practical to teach these group workshops during summer usually, and I just do a couple of plein airs with my students and we go out, and that's probably the best way to spend summer. But not this summer. This summer there was pandemic still going on, but it was kind of weak, and most of the activities were proceeding regularly. And so I was teaching the whole summer, trying to make up for the lost time, but mostly make up for the lost income. And shortly before the summer, I also started to teach online, just to make sure that even the students that can't or are too scared to come physically and be present during workshops can still keep up with their watercolor journey. And so I was teaching suddenly twice as much. It was live teaching and then online teaching, so it was quite a lot of work, and that stuck until September. And there was also a major live event going on and happening at the beginning of October. Me and my former boyfriend of 5 years were getting married, and we planned the wedding for 13 months. We had the place reserved, and some down payments were already paid. Well, you know how it is with the weddings and the pandemic. It's not the best time to get married, and most of the large wedding parties were cancelled. In September, we were suddenly standing before a choice to either cancel or postpone or risk and get married, but only with the closest family members. And since we didn't want to postpone the wedding, we decided to have a very small, intimate ceremony in a restaurant that was reserved for us that day. So we went according to plan. The ceremony was taking place outdoors, which was actually great. And I didn't really mind losing the party, even though I really enjoyed dancing a lot and I was looking forward to have the dance. And but I didn't cry about it much. It actually was kind of nice that we went home, and around 7:30 p.m. we were already on our couch watching the news. It was fun. And it will for sure be one of those weddings that you'll never forget, even though it wasn't a huge and a very noisy party. Let me sneak you in a couple of wedding pictures just so you get the atmosphere. It was a very warm and sunny autumny day, and we had a very skilled and friendly photographer that I found online that made our pictures, and he was actually so great that he had the photos ready for me the very same day. So it was incredible. Well, speaking of improving family situation, this was not my first wedding, but it was my best. I was actually married once before when I was quite young, in my 20s, and that marriage didn't really work out, and I have a 12-year-old daughter from that marriage, and it's been the three of us living together with 2 cats for 5 years already. So I found myself another partner, the best partner in the world, and we were very happy. And now I felt like I should mention that because we're now expecting another child, because very shortly after the wedding I found out that I am pregnant, and my other struggles began. For those of you that get curious, this was no accident. We were planning on having another child for 2 years actually, but it was never a good time. I couldn't decide when it's the best time to take a pause from my workshops, and now when there's pandemic going on, it's not ideal at all to have a baby. But since October, yet again, during the second wave, everything was closed, and I'm not allowed to have workshops in my studio at the moment. We're under a lockdown, and it's been almost 3 months. And I did spend those 3 months having my worst first trimester ever, when I was just in pain all day long and throwing up and just feeling lousy. And I'm glad that that didn't happen during the time when people were expecting me to be in my studio active and leading workshops, because I wouldn't have been able to. And so that was my whole autumn and the beginning of winter. The whole November and almost the whole December, I was just waiting for the symptoms of the first trimester nausea to calm down. I was expecting them to leave by 13th week of pregnancy, but that didn't happen. Now I'm 17th weeks in, and it slowly starts to lift off. This week I was only throwing up once and only had one very bad day when I had to lie down the whole day. The rest of time I managed to come here in the studio, and a big help is my new chair, my new pink chair that my husband bought for me and brought into the studio. The chair is very good for resting, and I can even take a nap during the day here in the studio if I want to. And there were other things besides nausea that were quite scary and frightening, and they had to do with the fact that I am over 35 years old now, and apparently those pregnancies tend to be more risky. Some tests came out not really very negative. And then we decided to pay for more advanced and very expensive genetic tests just to make sure that the baby is healthy. And luckily those turned out fine, but the waiting took a couple of weeks, and it really stressed me out to my very limits. I was a mess while waiting, and it was very shortly before Christmas when we finally got the good news and the negative results. We'll see if there will be more complications with my health during this period of time. I'm actually due in June, and I'm hoping that everything will go fine, that I will be feeling better, and I'm trying to take care of myself and even exercise and eat healthy foods so that I handle this well enough. So wish me luck. And update that is very fresh just from this week is that the baby finally started to kick a little bit, and I can feel it a bit sooner than the first time when I was pregnant 12 years ago, which I don't actually remember a whole bunch from the first pregnancy, which is sad, so I have to just study all the books all over again. But yeah, it's I'm about to finish the 17th week, and I'm already feeling the movements, especially at the evening when she probably tries to punish me that I squeeze her a little bit when I'm sitting stiff on my chair in the studio trying to work on my things. And I was trying also to encourage my husband to feel the movements, but he still can't. And my daughter Violka, she still can't also feel the movements. It's just me. The baby is still very tiny, but yeah, there will be a lot more kicks coming my way probably soon. So let's hope everything will be fine. And I'm just trying to keep my mind off all these changes a little bit and create new paintings. I'm doing a 7-day drawing challenge that I will tell you, hopefully, not promising anything, but hopefully I will tell you more about it in the next video that I'm preparing, and that motivates me to draw a bit more and just find time and inspiration every day to do something in my sketchbook that is only for me and for nobody else. No clients, no just trying to get off of this art block that's been partly caused by the pandemic, partly by me, because I still don't know how to manage my workflow properly, and partly because of the 3 months lying on the couch, not being able to do anything, and that seriously took some wind off of my routines and habits that I was used to. And I really just have been feeling very uninspired and incompetent even lately. So nobody needs practice more than me. So guys, today I really opened and I really shared so many personal things that I don't think I have shared ever before on my channel, but I'm happy about it. I wanted to do that. So I really appreciate you listening and maybe even painting along this video. I hope you also like the painting. And if you wanna know more about this technique in greater detail, it is really explained on my Patreon that I will link down below. I'll also appreciate if you want to follow me on Instagram, where I post in my stories my 7-day project before I publish the results, so you can check there with me every single day. I have all my social media, by the way, in the description of this video, so if you ever want to connect on a different platform, there you have it. And that's enough for today. It's been 20 minutes. I am sure that you're tired and I can't wait to meet you again. So have a great day, have a great evening, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.